We got a lot more on Jeff Van Gundy's hiring. No, he's not here to take Joe Mazzulla's job. Joe Mazzulla is growing as a coach. I'll tell you why. And Jrue Holiday's adjustment to coming to Boston. It's not smooth. We'll talk about it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. I want to thank you for making this show part of your daily routine. Monday through Friday, I'm here for you with a free, fresh podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It's also on YouTube. Subscribe everywhere, anywhere. Get this show to you, drop to you daily. Bonus podcasts on the weekends when they play on Fridays and Saturdays. I'm John Karalis. I played a long time ago. Now I am a beat reporter covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. Later on, we'll get to talking about Jrue Holiday, who is having some trouble buying a house. If you're an agent, especially someone who specializes in high-end housing, give Jrue Holiday a call. Joe Mazzulla is growing as a coach, and Jeff Van Gundy is here. We're going to talk about it all with our good friend, Tom Westerholm.
Hello.
Tom, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm ready to talk about the real estate troubles of the rich and famous.
That's right. Today's show brought to you by our good friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA. You get $20 off your first purchase. Not a bad deal. Jeff Van Gundy in the house, tweeted a photo out, put the photo on the community tab on the YouTube page. Proof that Jeff Van Gundy is in Boston. He is not here to take Joe Mazzulla's job. I can't tell you how many questions I got, how many comments that I've seen. People are just like, oh, yeah, great. He's here to take over. No. Brad Stevens has done everything that he can to make Joe Mazzulla succeed. He has built a team specifically for Joe Mazzulla and what he wants to do. He has put all of this experience around Joe Mazzulla to get him all of the stuff that he needs, all of the voices that he can get. I don't understand why people do not get, Tom, that all of this is put in place so Joe Mazzulla can succeed, and he's going to succeed in the regular season. Like, the regular season is probably going to go very well for the Boston Celtics. They look good. So I'm just begging people, Can you move on? I know you might not like Joe Mazzulla, those of you making these comments. I get it. Put it away. Move on. Find a new slant.
Here's the thing. This is what all of these hires, all of these additional voices, all of these consultants, your Jeff Van Gundys, your experienced, your Sam Cassell, your veteran assistant coaches, all of these guys are the guys who Brad would have brought in last year if Ime's stuff had come out in June, right? Like, this is how he would have built it out if Joe Mazzulla had a summer to prepare. He didn't, so he was just thrown in the deep end, and last year was just last year, and Mazzulla did his best, and now he gets to have all the voices that he would have had if the Celtics had more time to prepare for him being the head coach. This also, of course, assumes that Will Hardy still went to Utah for some reason, even though he definitely would have gotten the job if Ime happened in June. But this is what happens, and I think if Will Hardy had taken the Celtics job, Joe Mazzulla would have been kind of waiting in the wings. He would have gotten all these voices as just experience under the radar in like assistant coaching roles. Like, he would have, this is all just kind of making up for lost time and making, trying to like build something like sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of like the Celtics tried to build a house and now they're trying to build the foundation under the house. Like they're and it might work. They might be able to pour that slab just right under all the holes. We'll see.
I agree with
house
you.
talk early
A
on.
lot of house talk. We're just, yep. This is going to be the tone of the podcast. Just, today's show brought to you by, I don't know,
Zillow
and Lumber Liquidators or whatever. Hey,
Yeah.
by the way, Zillow, Lumber Liquidators, we're available.
Hey,
You guys, I just dropped a couple of, when Zillow finally takes off, and they're going to be like, wow, why are people suddenly using us?
correct.
This is going to be, they're going to be like, oh, we found it on the podcast.
We can be your big break, Zillow.
No one knew about Zillow before, and now here you are.
Yeah.
So you're welcome.
A little app that could.
I believe that you are correct when it comes to if they had 3 months to build this out for Joe Mazzulla, this is how they would have done it. I will push back on the Will Hardy thing a little bit. And the reason I'm even going to push back on it at all is to say that I don't think they wanted to bring in any connection to Ime Udoka to be the head
that
coach.
could be. Yeah.
And so I think that it's important to just understand why Joe got the job in the first place. It's because he's Brad's guy.
Yeah.
And also he is a smart guy. Like I am not just saying
Absolutely.
this to say it.
Yeah.
Joe Mazzulla is super smart when it comes to basketball. He is not dumb. He is not like unprepared. The only thing he lacked last year was NBA experience, and it showed. And he comes in last year with the interim tag. Let's just shift into Mazzulla's growth here. He comes in with the interim tag last year, so he's kind of like shocked when he gets the job. He doesn't have full authority because he's not really the head coach for whatever reason, legal reasons, whatever reason. He still is like, as the interim guy, even if Brad was like, don't worry, just go be the head coach. It's got to be something in the back of his head. It's like, yeah, but I'm still the interim guy, and it's very easy to fire me or demote me if this really doesn't go well. So there was a whole lot of don't rock the boat last year. Now, bringing in Van Gundy, bringing in Charles Lee, bringing in Sam Cassell, all of these experienced guys that have things to impart on to Joe Mazzulla, all part of accelerating the growth process for Mazzulla. They took a weakness. It's just like any spot on the team. Did they lack shooting? Well, you bring in shooters. They lacked head coaching experience. Well, they weren't going to go to another head coach. So let's surround this guy with experience. Now, super smart guy. Remember, Joe Mazzulla is super smart. Now he's got guys that can bounce some ideas off of him, or even like Jeff Van Gundy, when he's around, and he's not going to be around all the time, can be like, hey, you know what, Joe? I get what you're saying, but what if this? Because XYZ, and Joe can say, oh, you know what? Didn't think about that. Didn't know about that. Sam Cassell can be like, you know what? If you really want to get some trust with these guys, you won't do that thing that you want to do. You'll let them get to that spot. Those types of things, or vice versa. If you really want respect from those guys, you'll stop letting them do what they want to do, and you'll take charge. Yeah. So I think people have to really understand what's happening here. The people who are saying, well, if Joe Mazzulla is on the hot seat, he's out. And maybe, you're being sincere and asking the question, but I want to just get the thought out of people's heads. Joe Mazzulla is not going anywhere. Every move Brad Stevens has made, including bringing Jeff Van Gundy in as a senior consultant, has been aimed at making Joe Mazzulla better, giving him more of the tools that he needs, and letting Joe now, with the summer and all of that stuff, prepare, plan, and get where he needs to be.
It is interesting that Brad has this reputation as like blockbuster Brad now, right? Because he's been making all these moves. He's been doing all this stuff. Everything Brad has done, Brad has the core that he wants. And that core is Tatum, Jaylen, Joe Mazzulla. Like and everything that he does is in service of trying to make that core succeed.
Yes.
He has made a lot of big moves, and they are all 100% focused on, I'm trying to win a title with my guys, and these are the guys that I want to try to win a title with.
100%. That's what it is. There are examples of Joe Mazzulla's growth in practice that guys have talked about, that I was there talking to the guys about it. I'll share some of those when we come back. First, today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Now, I am a big proponent of therapy. I'm a big proponent of, suicide prevention is a major, major issue for me because I've been touched by it. I've also been, just full disclosure, I've dealt with, depression, and I've gone through therapy, and it's really, really helped. The perspective that I've learned, making myself a better person, has really, really helped me navigate some of the tougher times in my life. Now, you might be able to benefit from therapy. Maybe you just want to get something off your chest. Maybe you just want to talk through some things. Maybe you have something that's deep inside you that you want to kind of work through yourself. BetterHelp is really a good option for you because it's customizable. When you go through BetterHelp, what you do is you sign up, you go through your questionnaire, you fill it out, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and the best part is, if it doesn't work with your therapist that you're matched with, you can switch, no extra charge, no nothing, right? You do this on your own time over a video chat. Don't want to be on camera? Phone. You can do it over text. It's customizable the way you need it to be. Entirely online, convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. That brief questionnaire, you get a matched, and you can switch wherever you land, wherever you feel comfortable. That's where you are going to benefit the most. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA. I normally am on Wednesdays, but because the Celtics are playing on Tuesday night, I will not be doing the Wednesday show. So Jake Madison of Locked On Pelicans is going to get a replacement that's probably better than me. So go check that show out. Check it out. Covering the league as no other podcast can, 5 days a week. So check that out. Let's get back into the conversation here with Tom Westerholm. And Tom, one of the things that stood out over the course of the last few weeks, you ask everybody, how's it been? How's it different? And like Peyton Pritchard today, other guys have said this. They're doing a lot more team-oriented stuff. In past seasons, they've done more individual stuff. And now Peyton had said like plural. So that means that goes back to Ime. That goes back to Brad, where they do more individual stuff. And Joe has said, you know what? No, we're doing more team-oriented stuff. We're focusing on our mental kind of approach to this stuff. We're working through things together. And I think that's a sign of his growth because he is seeing the issue. I think one thing that I'm getting out of this training camp is Joe understands last year's deficiencies were mental, that they got away from things that they should have been doing. He said early on in training camp, I always thought that you don't have to preach defense because that should be just understood. And you know what? It's not always understood. Yeah. It's not just something that's a given. I think he's taking away excuses, and he's putting the team in position to be like, this is how we do this every single day. Pumping in crowd noise. I've never seen it. I've never been to a practice where they're pumping in full-on crowd noise. They're making it so get used to this. This is how you work every day in practice, in the game, with this group of guys. You're not off on your own. You do that afterwards. So I do think that Mazzulla is growing in that he identified problems, and this training camp seems to be specifically geared towards fixing the things that went wrong last year.
Well, and I'm sure the other thing he's probably trying to do is bulletproof this team against, as best he can, against just, there's all these new guys, right? There's all this new, like different looks. I mean, even like, Derek White without Marcus Smart. That's new. That's a very new thing. Like Jrue Holiday obviously is new. Like Peyton Pritchard having a role again. That's new. Like there's so much new here. Al Horford is getting older. There's a very different type of big man who will be sharing the floor with him. Like a very different look. Like all this stuff. Like I would imagine that a lot of the group work has a lot to do with that too, right? Like these guys have to get used to playing together. And it's not like last year. It's not quite as crazy as last year where everything was thrown together in the last minute, but there's just a lot of new faces on a team that has had a ton of continuity. I mean, since 2014 when Smart got drafted, like,
Yeah.
That's like this whole group started getting assembled. These Avengers came together at that point, and now things aren't broken up, but they are fractured. They're different. So it's about kind of reshaping, reforming, and then trying to see what shape it takes once they're done with all that.
And there are options that weren't here before. Like
Yeah.
I didn't like I didn't like giving up Marcus Smart, but this is why I'm a terrible GM. I always like what's here, right? And my goal is always, how do you fix what's here? Do you need something else? No. What's here is fine. That's always my default. And it might go to like being, former player where you kind of like, I always like, it's us. It's the guys on the floor. Like, I don't give a damn what anybody says about us. We're going to prove everybody wrong. So I always have that mentality. So I will admit, I do carry that into my analysis. So did I think the Celtics could win a championship with Marcus Smart and Robert Williams and all those guys? Like, yeah, absolutely. Because they were this close. And I kind of want to see it through. I also think like highly of these people and say Marcus Smart deserves a chance to do this.
Well, and beyond that, the talent was there. It wasn't a talent issue. I think you're right that it was like a mental, there were like,
and a fit thing. And like,
certainly
not a fit thing, but like the options, like having Holiday and Porzingis just, like, did I think they could do it with Marcus Smart shooting? Like I thought there was a way to win with Marcus Smart being your point guard and you minimize the shooting issues.
Yeah.
But hey, like the whole point of me with this little mini rant is like, it's me saying, as much as I like the guys that were here, I get it. I see it. I see what Brad is trying to do. And I understand, like, if Joe's going to be the coach, then yeah, you do this move and these moves. And now I'm looking at, I'm so ultra focused on Porzingis pin downs for Jaylen Brown, Porzingis pin downs for one of these guys coming out of the corner. And it's just like, oh, wow, the options. There are like 3 options off of that play. One simple screen.
And they're all like 1.2 points per possession.
Right. Because he can shoot, because he can hit that shot, because he's huge and he's a threat. Like, there's a lob, there's a pick and pop, there's a drive, and then Jaylen can drive, and then there's the swing, and then there's the, reverse ball reverse. You're like, oh my God, there are so many different ways this can go. So Joe Mazzulla has options, and they're trying to do another thing that he comes in, and I've talked about this before, but like the curveball, he wants to show teams something different. Understanding what works and what doesn't in the long term. Like, just already in the first few weeks of training camp, I can look at Joe and look at the way the camps are structured and look at the way he's talking and guys are talking about him and talking about everything. It's like, oh yeah, we've said this before, but I'll say it again. He's learning. A guy who got the job under weird circumstances last year, given the opportunity to prepare, has learned, has applied lessons, and is doing better. So I think that's a nice place for the Celtics to be.
Yeah. Lot to like. Lot of reason to think that this team could be pretty decent.
And that's all with Jrue Holiday, like just showing up a few, like just days ago. It seemed like he's sitting there, he's talking about, oh, well, still looking for a place to live. Can't find anything. Market's all crazy. His head has to be swimming with, just craziness after the trade. And yet here he is, potentially being like a major piece to a championship team. Let's talk about Holiday and his little struggles and all of that stuff in just a second. First, today's show is brought to you by Gametime. The Gametime app is going to help you get through those last second plans, whatever it is you want to get. Last second tickets to a sporting event. Maybe you want to go catch a Bruins game last minute. Maybe you want to go catch a minor league game in your area. Maybe you want to go catch, a football game last minute, or a show, a concert. It's all there on the Gametime app. It's the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seats before you buy it, so you know what you're going to see. The all-in prices show you upfront what your total is going to be, so you don't go to the checkout and get slammed with all of a sudden like, oh my God, where are all these fees coming from? You can buy the tickets in seconds with just 2 taps, and the Gametime guarantee means you're always going to get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. That's standing by your business. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKED, Locked On NBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Would love to have you over at the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast feed as well. That's going to be just game changer for you when you are playing your fantasy basketball. Josh Lloyd's going to basically help you win your league. So check that out wherever you got this podcast. Tom, you've recently bought a house.
I have. Dude, I'm this conversation is going to cause me to roll my eyes so hard into the back of my skull that I might not get them back. So continue with whatever.
No, I'm just saying that Jrue comes in and we're asking him how comfortable he's like, I'm still looking for a place to live. And it's like, are you not getting this? Like, no, I'm getting help. It's just the market's weird and some things have fallen through.
The market's weird, man.
The market's weird. All right. So obviously he's got plenty of money. He's going to find something, right? The type of house he's looking for is a little bit different than the one you bought and the one that I just bought. A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. However, it is less about buying the house and more about he's got this thing in the back. Like he leaves the practice facility and he's like, all right, where am I going now? What property am I going to look at? Where am I? He doesn't just get to go home and relax and play with his kid or whatever. He's got to go do all this other stuff, which means he's distracted, which means there's stuff on his mind that he's still working with, but yet he's making a pretty smooth transition. He's got Charles Lee here with him, who is kind of like walking him through a ton of stuff and being very helpful. And I just think that, and the one other thing before I get into that is he's also kind of open to not starting.
Yeah.
Which I think is an important part because, he basically, he said, what did he say? He said that it doesn't matter starting. It just matters who finishes. And so playing, supporting your teammates is what's important. Playing well is what's important. All of that stuff, the other stuff is important. It's not how you start, it's how you finish, that old cliche. But he's preaching it. He didn't sit there and say, I got to start. He said, yeah, whatever. So I just feel like this one potential thing with Holiday is it's not the easiest transition for him, but
certainly
it's a transition that he seems to be kind of making, well enough.
Yeah. I guess just to start with the starter stuff, that if you're not going to start Jrue Holiday, and I understand that there's a lot of odd circumstances around this team and everything else. It just feels like you got to start Jrue Holiday. like,
Sure.
and I get it. I get it.
But like,
I get everything he's saying. I get that, I get the argument against starting him. I get the argument for bringing him off the bench that, like, Derek White has always been really good in the starting lineup and you might want to go double big sometimes. And sometimes Jrue Holiday will start if you want to go with two guards like that. And I get all of that, but it's just, man, that just feels like you got to start Jrue Holiday. Like he's Jrue Holiday. I don't know.
right. Well, let's talk this through. Let's talk this through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're starting. Let's just assume you're starting double big. Let's just assume that this is Tatum, Brown, White, Porzingis, Al Horford. At the 6-minute mark, halfway through the first quarter, you sub out Al Horford. You bring in Jrue Holiday. So you start double big. Now, at the first 6 minutes of the game, you're as big as you're possibly going to be, which means the rim is ultra protected, which means the guys in the perimeter can take their chances. You still got good length. Obviously, Holiday is one of the best perimeter defenders, but Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White is a hell of a defensive, perimeter. Maybe for the first 6 minutes, you're just trying to say, you're just trying, hey, nobody's getting to the rim. No one's getting to this. Kind of like the Robert Williams starting thing, that the argument that I was making. Go out there, take your chances, gamble, get those steals, get out into transition, pile up the points, try and set the tone. And then when the other team is reeling and say, okay, we got to make a sub, we got to change this. Now Holiday comes in and is like, all right, now you got to get by me. And now you go single big. And for the rest of the half, you're just Horford and Porzingis are subbing in for one another. And maybe you don't close the game with Horford. Maybe you do. I don't know. But there's options. There are options there. I can see the substitution pattern where Holiday coming off the bench just is a nice counter to another team having to react to Boston going out on a big run to start.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, you get Holiday coming in, whatever the other team tries to do, that's a great counter, right? To be able to bring in a, 5-time all defense, 2-time all-star as, who's still at, kind of the peak of his powers, to be able to bring that guy in, that's going to be a fantastic, whether it's, counter or continuation, if the starters do really well, all that kind of stuff. I mean, look, if Holiday means it, if he's really okay with coming off the bench and, not starting, if he feels like that's a role that he's comfortable with sometimes, I mean, that's fantastic for the Celtics. Like that's, I mean, what a weapon, like to take the Malcolm Brogdon minutes and then upgrade them to that degree, like sheesh, or take the Malcolm Brogdon role and upgrade it to that degree. That's quite good. But it just, there's something just kind of incongruous about it, right? Like where you've got a guy who's this good and he's coming off the bench, and it's like, and then you go up and down the lineup, right? It's like Derek White. I mean, that guy's awesome. Like, and he was, one of the best plus minus guys on the team, one of the best, just that, as good as it gets. Like it on paper, it does make some sense. And yeah, you just kind of have to chalk it up to having 6 starter quality, true, genuinely starter quality guys. But yeah, it's I don't know, man. This seems pretty loaded.
How do you spell incongruous?
Oh, I got it. INCONGRUOUS.
Yes.
Let's go.
I think
Orange City Christian Spelling Bee champion right here.
GRUOUS. Not in harmony or keeping with the surroundings or other aspects of something. So yes, it is. It does feel incongruous.
Yeah.
Tom breaking out the big words. I think if you're ever going to not start Jrue Holiday, this is it. This is the opportunity, because you have the excuse, hey buddy, we just traded for you. Let's keep you on the bench for now to start, get you up to speed.
We might clear room for you to start sometime in the future. Who knows?
But like, there's there's that feeling of if you're able to start with him on the bench and frame it as get yourself together, get your head right. Don't worry. You're still going to play your 30 plus minutes. Like you're not losing anything in your role, but just we'll ease you in. And then if it's working, you get to be like, hey, buddy, let's not rock the boat here. We got something special. You could be 6th man of the year. It's just a 6th man of the year factory in Boston with guards that are used to starting.
With wildly overqualified guards.
Right. Exactly. But his transition into this city, this lineup, just, hey, if it works, you can just say, hey, we're gonna roll with it. And he'll get plenty of time on the floor. And maybe at some point you say, hey, it's not working. Or maybe Al starts to feel the effects of, hey, I know that I felt good before, but the 26 to 28 minutes, I'm starting to feel it. And let's kind of maybe dial it back a little. Okay, fine. Start Holiday and you just go a different route. There's no wrong answer here. There's really no wrong answer because you can, each side starting one or starting the other has validity. I do think that Derek White is going to be the starter. He's not going to the bench.
Yeah.
He's not going to the bench.
Yeah.
And so it's down to Horford or Holiday. And, maybe you just go alphabetically and you start from there.
Yeah. Well, that seems reasonable.
All right.
I do want to say, I feel for Holiday moving, right? I do. It's hard. It's hard to move. Of course it is.
It is.
It's hard to move.
You got ripped and you didn't expect it. It's not
tough.
like it's not like, hey, I bought a house a year ago, a little more than a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was house shopping. I was looking, with my future wife, like let's go buy a house. And you started the process and it was difficult, but you made a decision and you went and looked for a house. Like you made a decision. I made a decision. Holiday didn't make that decision. He's sitting there one day in Milwaukee, all happy, getting ready to take his daughter to school. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, by the way, you live in Portland now. Like, nope, no, I do not. I'm going to live in someplace else, but it's not Milwaukee and it's not Portland. And let's figure this out. But yeah, man, it's
hard. No question. Here's the thing about that, though, is that I did the math and.
Okay, Forrest, let's go.
Holiday's contract, right? I'm not going to tell you how many days just because, it'd be weird to just be like, it would not be a matter of weeks. It would be a matter of days for him to pay off my mortgage. So when I hear him, when I hear people be like, oh man, it's just so hard. It is. It totally is. And it wasn't his choice. And he loved Milwaukee and all of that stuff. But also come on.
Oh, I understand. I feel for him. I get you. I gotcha. It's an easier transition for him than it would be for us.
Correct. So I sympathize for all the things that he deserves sympathy for in this regard.
And I'll put it out there. If Jrue Holiday wants to make me a sweet offer for my house, I'm willing to sell for the right price. I mean, I have the advantage. I have the high ground.
Yeah.
You know. So that's we gotta talk here. Yeah. But I'm willing to talk. I just get the feeling that this isn't enough for Jrue Holiday.
Your house?
I think he wants more.
It's a good house.
It's a good house.
It's a good house.
Great house for me.
Yeah.
I think it's a small house, Jrue Holiday. At all.
Yeah. He's I mean, he can do the same thing with mine if he wants. Again, it would take him 2 days or a few days.
Yeah. I mean, in the meantime, he gets to stay at the Ritz-Carlton or something.
No, that's the other thing where it's just all right, man.
And we'll wrap it up on this. There are rules that like people don't understand. The team has to pay for the hotel. There's a moving expense. Somebody is assigned to Holiday to be like, we are taking care of these things for you. He has a certain amount of time that he can spend in the hotel. There are plenty of ways, but the teams help this process along. So he's not completely on his own. There is a system in place, but that doesn't mean that he's not like, I'm sure he'd like to just say, can I get my house? Can I get my, I don't know. Does he have cars or whatever? Like,
I would assume
whatever he has. Like, I assume like he has like 8 cars or something. And
yeah,
that's what I would have if I was in the NBA. All right. We're off the rails. The house talk is just completely derailing. So, maybe that Zillow website can help him out.
I also poked around on Zillow and did some filters in Boston, and yes, I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be able to find something at some point.
There's some options for him.
Yeah.
All right, Tom. Thanks
All
so
right,
much.
man. Appreciate you
being on here, and I appreciate all of you for listening, for watching, for being here for this fun little podcast. Tomorrow, game against New York at home. I will be doing a post-game podcast. Post-game pods drop really late. So if you are used to this podcast dropping somewhere around 10, 11, 12 at night, and you're staying up waiting for me to drop the podcast, post-game pods generally drop later because I don't always have the opportunity to do them at the arena because they're changing things over, and I don't want to be out there in the middle of the Bull Gang banging and changing all the stuff from basketball to hockey. And I just don't always have a spot. So I have to bottom line is post-game podcasts get to be a little bit later. So still make sure you subscribe. It'll be there for you when you wake up. I don't care how late I have to stay up. It'll be there for you when you wake up. So subscribe, watch the show on YouTube, get into that comment section. Let me know what you think about the show, about what I've said, what Tom said. Give us general compliments. Those are very welcome. And share the podcast. Tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here in the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.